Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video is going to be the part 1 of my Intro to Eyeshadow series. For part 1 of this series, I'm going to go through all of my different eyeshadow brushes, categorize them into different types of brushes, and kind of give you guys a rundown of how I use them. For today's video, I'm going to be purely showing the brushes and kind of talking about them, and then in part 2, I'm going to be doing a demo on how I use them. So if you guys want to learn a little bit more about eyeshadows and eyeshadow brushes and why I have so many damn eyeshadow brushes, then please keep on watching. Before I get into the actual brushes I use, I wanted to show you guys my eye primer. I like to go in with an eye primer because there's a lot less moisture in an eye primer, which makes creasing happen a little bit less on your eyeshadows and makes your lid kind of have a more smoother base. Since a concealer is a more wet base, it can cause a lot of creasing. This one doesn't have much coverage to it, but it just lays down a really nice base for your shadows. So these are my fluffy blending brushes. These brushes are those brushes that I use when I don't want to apply too much pigment. I just want to, add like a soft wash of color, or I want to, lay down a transition shade to kind of help the rest of the deeper shades blend a little bit better. These brushes are not densely packed at all. They're really flimsy, so they're not going to concentrate any pigment on a specific area, and they're going to be really nice to blend out, let's say, any harsh, darker eyeshadows that you might have put a little bit too much or are not blending. You can go back in with these fluffier brushes with, let's say, a lighter shade to kind of help blend them out. So here I have my Desi X Katie Dose of Colors palette. This is one of my favorite palettes. And I'm going to take the fluffy blending brush and go into this soft brown shade. And I'm going to start demoing this on my hand with where I place the eye primer. And as you can see, it's just lightly depositing the color, blending it out really nicely, not creating any harsh colors or lines. So the next category is my more denser, fluffy brushes. Obviously these brushes are going to look very similar to the first category, but I use these to kind of help build up color in my crease. I don't usually use these brushes to help blend out any softer shadow. As you can see, here's a difference between a bigger, fluffier brush and then one of the more dense ones. Again, still going to be able to blend out a shadow really nicely, but not be as soft as a typical larger blending brush. So I'm going to take this palette again, and then I'm going to go in with one of my denser blending brushes, go with a deeper shade, and start building that on top of that original shade. As you can see, it's still blending out the color, but it's depositing it very much more concentrated. So again, you can, deepen up your crease per se, and not have to worry about, being too harsh with the color. You can still blend it out really nicely with these brushes. So these are my more denser packing brushes. I really like to use these brushes to, pack on a shimmer shadow or start building up a deeper shade all over my lid. I find that these are a lot easier than a really super flat brush, which can be a little more flimsy. I feel like denser packing brushes pack on color a lot better. So again, I'm going to take that palette and I'm going to take one of the denser shading brushes and I'm going to demo that on my hand, and as you can see, I am still able to kind of blend it out a little bit, but be able to place that pigment just on the areas that I want. So if you don't want a really harsh line with your shimmer, this is a great option. So these are my flatter packing brushes. I like to use these brushes for a lot more precision work. For example, if I want to place color in just one specific area like the brow bone, or if I want to cut the crease and create a sharp line on my lid, this is what I would typically go for in those kinds of cases. So here I'm going to take a little bit of concealer with one of the brushes, and I'm kind of going to mimic what I would do in order to create a cut crease on my lid. As you can see, I'm creating really straight lines. I'm able to just place the brush and then pull it down and still create a nice sharp line, or I can literally drag the brush and create a nice sharp line. And here I'm going to take my Jackie Aina palette, take another one of the flat brushes. I've had this brush for years. I literally got this off of like Groupon when I was like 18. And as you can see here, I can be really precise on where I place that shadow and not worry about it flying everywhere. So I categorize these brushes as liner brushes because these are brushes I can, dip into an eyeshadow or a liquid or cream product, and I can create a very sharp line. They're all slightly different, but they can all have a very similar effect because they're so small and packed. Again, really great for creating precision work without having to worry about, color getting everywhere. So here I'm going to take one of these brushes. This is literally a paintbrush. I'm going to take a black shadow and I'm going to kind of just start swiping that back and forth. As you can see, I'm creating a nice straight line there. Obviously, it's not a thin line, but as you can see, it's a very straight, clean cut line. And I'm going to take this brush, and as you can see, again, you're creating a very sharp line. Sorry if it gets a little messy. I am kind of filming at an angle, so it's kind of hard to do. But as you can see, you're starting to create a very crisp line. Really great if you're not used to eyeshadow and you want to use an eyeshadow to create a wing, which I'll be doing in my demo actually. So please stay tuned for part 2 of this video where I will be demoing all of these brushes. Alright, so these are kind of those random brushes that you don't necessarily need. Some of these brushes I like to use to carve up my eyebrows before I go into eyeshadow. Some of these to pack color in very specific areas or very specific angles, like this one, which I'll show in a second. These brushes are obviously not necessary, none of these are, but these are just kind of some random brushes that I have that I don't think are necessary, but nice, add-ins. As you can see, they're all slightly different and they can all be used in a slightly different purpose. These are really nice to have if, suddenly you want to do a little bit of extra work and do something a little different. You have kind of that random weird brush, which will end up being a really great use for whatever look you're doing. So here, as you can see with this angled brush, this brush is really great, to go into the outer crease and, create almost like a V shape. As you can see that I'm doing right in here. Really bad placement of where I chose my hand. I'm really sorry. Alright, you guys, so those are all of my brushes. I hope that was a good enough description. I know it kind of went a little fast, but like I said, down below is going to be a Google Doc with all of the brushes that I use, links to all the brands that I use, and also links to other brands of brushes that I want to try out, but I haven't yet. Part 2 will be me doing a pretty simple brown smoky eye look. That'll be coming out later this week. I'll be kind of describing how I, add shadow, how do I layer, how do I blend, and, kind of just going over how I kind of go through my eyeshadow routine. If you guys have any questions in the meantime, please let me know. I know that this video might have been kind of all over the place, and especially if this is your first time watching, a video like this or don't really know much about eyeshadow, then it can be kind of more difficult to follow along. Please let me know any questions or suggestions down below. I would love to have a conversation a little bit more about eyeshadow if you guys like, or about it, pretty much anything related to makeup. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on that notification bell so you get notified when I post every week, because the time varies kind of depending on the day. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!